Hello everyone, it's Anna Fialkoff here. I will be giving you a presentation introducing you to garden design today. We will first look at broad design styles that influence the world of landscape design, and as we go through the slides together, think about which design styles are most attractive to you. You may like certain aspects of some or all of them. Just think about that. Then we will talk more about general elements of garden design and how they can be incorporated into your own gardens. When we think of Eastern garden design, we think of the iconic Japanese gardens. They have Zen and meditative landscapes, minimalistic sand gardens, and miniatures or caricatures of scenes inspired by natural phenomenon, like bonsai. The Western design is probably more influential today. It features linear and geometric forms and symmetry. The European style also uses intense manipulation of plants and landscapes through practices such as hedging and pollarding, espalier, topiary, and perfectly manicured and extensive lawns. Other favored features include repetition and rhythm and pattern, like this formal allée. They also include creating serene outdoor rooms like courtyards. Considered the father of American landscape architecture, Frederick Law Olmsted was an influential figure in the 19th century. He designed some of the most notable parks in the United States and Europe. Some of those include the large network of parks and green spaces called the Emerald Necklace in the greater Boston area, as well as Central Park in New York City. He's known for going off the grid form of the European style and creating curvilinear paths. As a hide and reveal, a path might go into a tunnel and emerge out into an expansive vista. Prospect and refuge is a concept that includes a seating or viewing area that has a lookout with also an expansive vista, yet is protected and enclosed behind it. Remnants of European aesthetic and land management practices were left by the colonists of New England. New England's farm and forest, small townships, apple orchards, and colonial homes make it a picturesque place to live. Creating a garden to fit with where you live is a place-based approach to garden design. For example, existing stone walls, which now recall New England's agrarian past, are great landmarks that make this region unique. Permaculture is the development of agricultural systems intended to be both sustainable and self-sufficient. It incorporates principles of efficient use of space, integrated food and forest, and water saving and nutrient cycling principles. These principles can be used to cultivate native edible species instead of harvesting them from the wild. You can get inspiration from nature to design a garden that blends with the surrounding landscape. Here's a native grassland that frames a circular sitting wall at Brooklyn Botanical Garden in New York City. That's on the left. On the right, the Curtis Woodland Garden at Garden in the Woods showcases spring wildflowers. Something to note is that a native plant garden doesn't always have to have a naturalistic style. A fun challenge would actually be to create a formal European garden using only native species. Crimes Against Horticulture is a Facebook group that posts common malpractices of professional and amateur landscapers. Many of these crimes are considered of bad taste or actually are detrimental to plant health, such as doing pruning practices like meatballing or lollipopping a shrub, or putting way too much mulch around the trunk of a tree, which leads to the decline and ultimate demise of the tree. And it's a practice known as volcano mulching. I encourage you to check out the Facebook page. Though I encourage you to use elements of these design styles that I talked about earlier, here I also want to illustrate common design faux pas. That is, when someone attempts to replicate one of the design styles mentioned earlier, but in application it fails aesthetically and or ecologically. Japanese maple, for example on the left, is planted to evoke the Zen Japanese garden style. While not an invasive species, it is exotic and it does seed around prolifically. I could also think of a number of alternatives that could provide much better wildlife habitat and forage. On the right, these meatballed shrubs seem to be pruned in the English topiary style, but without any rhyme or reason or context to make it work. Certain design elements are crucial for an everyday garden to maintain interest and legibility, regardless of the style used. Some of these design elements are visual cues in the landscape that help us define a space as a place to inhabit, such as a path, a bench, or some type of protected enclosure. Hardscapes help create a contrast from the greenery and frame the garden beds featured. Using local materials can recall a sense of place, like using granite or fieldstone as edging around a bed to make you feel like you're in New England. Add structure and color with trellises, containers, and natural objects, like tree branches and stumps. Containers can be used for experimentation, such as this bearberry bonsai on the right, and to bring interest and color to small spaces. Planning a garden with year-round interest is vital to both people and plants. Often people think of the garden as a summertime event. However, a winter garden will provide forage and habitat for wildlife, as well as ornament and structure to view out your window. Be sure to include native fruit-bearing trees and shrubs, and think about what grasses and seed-bearing herbaceous species can be left up through the cold months. Think about your garden in 3D. The canopy provides shade and is made up of small flowering trees and existing tall trees. The shrub and canopy layers are also important for providing forage and cover for birds, and interest through fall and winter. The perennial layer is mid-height and closest to eye level, so keep that in mind. The ground cover layer is vital for keeping the soil moist, preventing erosion, and suppressing weeds. How you group plants together in a design will influence how the colors, textures, and heights of individual species come across to a visitor. If you put a bunch of single specimens into a bed, most of the plants will get lost. Use clumps of 5 or more of each species in a small garden bed to make an impact. Single specimens with distinctive features can act as accents and stand alone, like this beautiful hawthorn tree putting on a show on the left. On the right, you can see the massings of wild bee balm and black-eyed Susan are more often appropriate in larger landscapes and are gorgeous when seen from afar. They are in naturalistic drifts, or groupings that look like rivers of color when in bloom. Now that you have a better understanding of different design styles and design elements, it is time for you to go out to parks, public gardens, and friends' gardens to make your own observations. Use the garden observation worksheet in the next assignment. Here are some broad questions to get you started. What design styles are you most attracted to? What puts you off? What kinds of places make you feel happy and comfortable? What makes you want to stay somewhere? What makes you want to leave a place? What makes a space become a place?